Now please welcome Carmel Valley Manor's President and CEO, Jay Zimmer.
Good afternoon, and thank you for attending Carmel Valley Manor's first Zoom event on downsizing. We are happy to present information that can benefit seniors. Carmel Valley Manor is Monterey County's only life care community for people over 65. I am pleased to announce that 97% of our residents and staff have received the COVID-19 vaccine, and over the past year, we have weathered the pandemic exceptionally well. Thanks to our dedicated staff and wonderful residents, we are happy and healthy. Our presentation today is on downsizing, or what might be better described as right-sizing. Our featured speaker is Greg Gunderson. Following Greg's presentation, we will take questions and provide a brief introduction to Carmel Valley Manor by our Director of Community Relations, Angie Machado. If you have any questions of either of our speakers, click on the Q&A button and type them in. We will answer as many as we can at the end of today's presentation. We all dread the prospect of moving, sorting, deciding what to keep and what to discard. If anyone can make it easier, and maybe even fun, our next guest can. Greg Gunderson of Gentle Transitions is an expert in relocation. He has personally assisted over 1,000 seniors downsize. Greg has been featured in the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, Good Housekeeping, Money Magazine, and has appeared on CNN. He has faced every situation from hoarders to white glove aristocrats. I am sure you will enjoy his anecdotes and learn from his insights. We are recording today's session and will be sharing the link in an email you will receive following this presentation. Now please join me in welcoming Greg Gunderson.
Great, thank you, Jay. It's great to be here. Great to be here with you, Jay, and with you, Angie, and all of you at home. We do wish that we were all together at Carmel Valley Manor doing this presentation live. But actually, if we're going to do a presentation at home, I think this webinar is a perfect webinar to do at home. So I'm sure some of you are sitting in your office, at your kitchen table, wherever it might be. And if we're talking about downsizing, and as Jay mentioned, right-sizing, a home is a really good place to hear and see this webinar. So 2020, 2021 have been years unlike any other. At the beginning, we were not playing golf, and still to this day, many of us are not getting together for bridge and getting together with friends. I know myself, I've had many weddings postponed to the coming year. Many of us are not working, or at least in the workplace. And actually, many of us are not able to volunteer either. But you know, 2021 actually is a good year for some things. One of those things actually, yes, is preparing for and making a move. When it comes to moving, moving is one of life's most difficult experiences, along with job change, divorce, loss of a spouse, and of course, moving. And really, moving is challenging for anyone of any age. And whether you're 35, 55, or 85, no one likes to move. And moving is particularly troublesome for older adults. And I'd like to share with you just a couple of reasons why that is. One of those reasons is that many of us are leaving the home after many years, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years and more. And many of my clients who left a home after that length of time, they've told me it's more than just a physical change of place. It's an emotional experience. It's where the kids grew up, where family events took place. So they tell me it's a big, big deal. Another major challenge for older adults when moving, most of us are going from a larger place to a smaller one, which frankly requires making a decision about every personal item in a house. Garden tools in the garage, china and crystal in the dining room, toiletries under the bathroom sink. And for most people say this helps them put off making a move. And really the reason for our presentation today is to share with you some ideas on how to get past that. Now, Jay was nice enough to mention a number of different media publications done stories about downsizing and gentle transitions. Believe it or not, one of those is a Wall Street Journal. And just a year ago, last January, the Wall Street Journal, which is typically a business and financial paper, did almost an entire full-page story on the subject of downsizing. Who would have thought? So if you think you're alone with this idea of downsizing, you're not, because they actually wrote a whole story about it. What I found interesting was the title of the story is The Torturous Task of Downsizing. Now, I have helped a number of people downsize, and it's not easy. I agree with that. But there's no reason it needs to be torturous. In the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you some great tips on how to make it not torturous at all. It may be, maybe even just a positive experience. So what I'd like to do in the next few minutes in our presentation today is share with you 5 moving momentum tips to help you with downsizing and perhaps moving as well. But before I get into that, I want to share with you kind of the lighter side of moving before we really get down to business here. And in my line of work, I've come across a lot of interesting things in clients' homes. One of those things was this cartoon. It looks like moving day. Gentleman is in his favorite easy chair. Lady of the household looks like she's paying the movers. But what she says to the movers, here's $20. Make sure the plaid chair never gets there. So some of you can perhaps relate to that. Some have suggested that she wants the movers to take the chair and her husband somewhere else. But that's for a topic on another day. Now, as I said, I've been in a lot of clients' homes and I've seen a lot of interesting things. I have a couple others to share with you. One of those is this. The opinions expressed by the husband in this house are not necessarily those of the management. Perhaps some of you can relate to that, whether you're single or a couple. And my final thought today, if I knew grandchildren would be so much fun, I would have had them first. Isn't that sweet? Okay. Well, I just wanted to share with you some of those things, but let's get down to work. And as I mentioned, I'm going to share with you today 5 moving momentum tips, and they are as follows. First, use colored dots or Post-it notes to identify items in the house. Secondly, do easy and obvious areas first. Third, do the hard projects now. Fourth, getting a head start with clothes in the closet. And fifth, the best downsizing tool ever, and I'll tell you what that is in a few minutes. Now, we are going to share with you, or can share with you, a copy of this webinar, so don't feel like you need to write down lots of notes. Just take it in the presentation, and you can follow up later and watch it again should you so desire. So let's get into these tips one by one. Tip number 1, use colored dots or Post-it notes to identify items in the house. We at Channel Transitions, we use colored stickers. Those stickers coordinate to a stoplight. Green is for go, things to move to the new place. Red is for stop, things that do not. And yellow are things we're undecided we'll come back to later. So colored stickers work really well. Post-it notes do also. And you can buy them from almost any store in any color and any size. And you can write Carmel Valley Manor, charity, family, lots of different things. And you can move them around should you change your mind. One other aspect to tip number 1 here is please separate decision-making from packing. And the reason I suggest that is that packing diverts the focus from decisions. It also takes so much energy to do packing, and what we really want to do is focus on what to move and what not. In fact, we even put together a little demonstration video to show you how that might work, whether you're planning for a move in the near future or in the more distant future. And here's how that goes.
I want to demonstrate how a cupboard, a cabinet, or a closet can easily be organized into things that move and things that don't prior to a move. We use little colored stickers that coordinate to a stoplight. Green is for go, things to move. Red is for stop, things that don't. And let's take a look at this linen closet. So right here see here on the top shelf, bedding that belongs to beds that will not move. I know these things don't move. And then I see these sheets still in their plastic bags, never been opened, never been used, and probably never about to be. So I'm going to put a red sticker, things that do not move, for everything on this shelf. I'm going to look at the second shelf. I see towels that are used regularly. And then I see these towels, which is a potpourri of Valentine's to tennis. We're not going to bother with these. So I'm going to place these on the red shelf. I look at this third shelf. I see towels used regularly, bedding for the bed. So I'm going to put a green sticker, things to move. And then I see the beach towels. Now, we're certainly not going to need all those at the new place because we won't have a backyard pool. But we do want to take a few of them. And I've selected these two to go to the new place. So I'm going to place them here on the green shelf, things that move. And now I'm all organized. The two shelves that do not move with red stickers, or you can use Post-it notes, like so. And you can place them on the shelf or on the side of the wall. And now I am completely organized in this closet. It's ready to make a move a few weeks down the road or a few months. And now I can move on to another part of the house.
So my favorite aspect of this strategy in downsizing is that you can do this and not make a complete mess of the house and enjoy your home now in the weeks to come or in the months or whatever that might be. So let's turn to downsizing tip number 2. Do easy and obvious areas first. I thought you might enjoy this picture from a client that I took on this little coffee mug. It says, I used to be indecisive, now I'm not sure. What I think is so cute is look at that teddy bear's face. I don't know how they do that, but I thought that was kind of fun. But you know what my favorite part of this picture is? Yeah, that's right. The broken handle on the coffee mug. Yeah, you'll see the broken handle there on the right. My client had that in her home, and believe it or not, we moved it to her new place. I thought you might enjoy that. But what we'd like to get at is this. Start in unused rooms and spaces. Decision-making will come faster in those places. If you can't decide about something, move on. Remember, we use yellow stickers. But whatever you do, we want you to have success. Always, always move forward. And one other thought about doing easy and obvious areas first, I thought I'd share this story about this clock. So I was meeting with a client, with the husband and wife. The husband said, we could get a lot of money for that in the sale. And then the lady of the household said, but Mary has always really liked that clock. And I'm listening to this conversation and smoke is coming out of my ears because nowhere in that conversation did they ask, do we want the clock? They just skipped right past that. So what I would suggest that you do, as what I did suggest with those clients, decide first whether you want something or not, then later decide what to do with unwanted items. Now, speaking of unwanted items, and actually I could do an entire presentation on unwanted items. It always intrigues people what to do with these things. And I'm not going to do a whole presentation today, but I do want to share with you this one slide and also do some expectation setting. So my first thought about expectation setting is this. Be prepared for family to not want your things. And the reason I mention that is I've had so many clients be disappointed that family don't want their things. Probably because their tastes are different, more likely because their houses are already full. But if you do have family members, appreciate that want your things, because for the most part, that's not the case. Also, in terms of expectation setting, be prepared for items to not have value. And yes, you may have spent a lot of money for some very nice things in the past, but for whatever reason, they're not valuable to people today. Frankly, most people like to go to IKEA rather than to buy some really fine furniture. So I just want to get your expectations set as you go into this process. And what to do with those unwanted items? Well, estate sale groups are a great option. We don't want you to conduct a sale in your home because we don't want you to have people you don't know in your home. But estate sale groups know how to do this. And oftentimes we will have a client who will make their move, and then the day or two following, then an estate sale group will come in mark everything like you see it in that picture, conduct a sale, and then leave a house room clean. There's another option as well, which we call clean out groups. And because things these days aren't as valuable as they used to be, in fact, many cases not valuable at all, sometimes my clients engage a group where they will come and just remove everything from a house. And then from there, they sell what they can, they donate what they can, or they recycle what they can. And that's a nice option because that takes just a day in most cases, or just a couple days. And also when it comes to unwanted items, the best downsizing tool ever that I'll talk about in just a few minutes is a great, great tool, and I'll share with you how that can be useful. Tip number 3, let's do the hard projects now, particularly while staying at home. But before I get into that, I do want to share with you what senior relocation services are. Frankly, my company is a senior relocation provider. There are others now, in fact, across the country that do this. But most people aren't aware that these services even exist. They know about wonderful retirement communities like Carmel Valley Manor. They know about moving companies, but they're not aware that these days there are now services that help people with floor planning, sorting and downsizing, packing and unpacking and resettling in the new place. So I wanted to share with you what it is that we do, and just to expand on that just a bit. Typically, our first step in working with the client is helping with doing a floor plan. We go and we see the new place, then we meet with our client. We use a magnetic floor planning board, which actually is a lot of fun. And during that visit, we'll talk about what's practical, what's sentimental, what's both, and what's neither. Once we've worked out a floor plan, we do work with the sorting and downsizing, much of what we're talking about in this presentation today. Our move manager will work with each client, and we don't make decisions. Our clients are the only ones that can do that. But so many of our clients have come in to us, I've done more with you in 2 hours than I've done on my own in 6 months. So sometimes it can be really helpful to have a third person help with the process. When it comes time for the move, our staff does the packing, we make arrangements with the mover, and then on moving day at the new place, we're there to make the bed, hang the pictures, and in short, make that new space home again in moving day or perhaps the following day. So just to show you a few before and after pictures, this was an apartment at a senior living community, getting obviously ready for the new resident. Then on moving day, actually this was the day after, this is how their living room looked. And if a new place can look like the living room or this bedroom, we like to think everything in the new place, everything about the new place is better. The food tastes better, and you're going to hear about the great food at Carmel Valley Manor in a bit. The neighbors are nicer. Just colors the whole experience. If a move can look like this rather than a pile of boxes. All right? So I did want to just share with you that there are services available to help with making a move. So let's get back to our moving tips today. Do the hard projects now. So what are those hard projects? Well, books. Books are always hard. Paperwork, probably even more difficult. And people are often challenged by photos. So let's take a couple of minutes and talk about each of these categories. Books. What to do about books? Well, my advice, what I know, let's say this, is that there are 2 types of books. Books you've read and books you haven't. And in my line of work and dealing with a lot of bookworms, what they have kind of told me, keep the books you've read and discard those that you don't. I think that's a good suggestion. With most of my clients, we kind of select their favorites, and that works out quite nicely. What about paperwork? My advice to you about paperwork is this. Ask your own tax advisor which record you need to keep and for how long. Now, you might want to wait till after April 15th. Most of those people are kind of busy right now, but ask them. They know you and your personal financial situation. Ask them which record you need to keep and for how long. And when you do go through your paperwork, what I do, and what I suggest you do as well, is set up paperwork into 3 areas. 1, things you're going to keep. 2, things you're going to shred that has your ID on it. And finally, things you can simply recycle or trash. And when you do go through your paperwork, I want you to remember something interesting called Ohio. Actually, it's really important if you can remember this. Now, I assume most of us are here in California. So why do I want you to remember Ohio? Because Ohio stands for only handle it once. Now, I know this might be a lofty goal, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. If you can just half of the time in your paperwork, in your shoes, in your kitchen, pots and pans, whatever it is, if you can just half of the time only handle it once and make a decision, you'll be way, way ahead in this game of downsizing. And my last thought about paperwork, please do not use these little shredding machines from Office Depot or Staples. Now, yes, they do shred, but they're really only meant for today's mail. They are not meant for days, weeks, months, years, or decades of bills and paperwork. They break down, they make a mess, and worst of all, they take forever when time is important during a move. So what I suggest, what many of my clients have done, is hired a shredding service. Let them do the work. This particular company hauled all the stuff out of the house, put it in their truck, and they shredded it right there on that street. And there's lots of options for shredding these days. So utilize those, but please do not use these little machines from Office Depot or Staples. In my last category of hard things to deal with, family photos. One thought is this: focus on the pictures of people, not scenery. Don't worry about those pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge, the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, but focus on the pictures of people, your family members and friends. I also think most of us are aware that there are lots of ways to preserve photos, slides, and movies nowadays. My brother did that with our own family's photos, and we have CD copies, my brother does, and other family members. And while going through family photos may seem intimidating, you actually might be surprised that it might be a nice walk down memory lane. Speaking of memory lane, isn't that sweet?
I see trees of green.
Now, I'm in that picture. That's me there on the right. And yes, Q went out many, many years ago. What's interesting about the picture, if you really look at it hard enough, my brother is the one there with the book. Then someone takes away the book, and then he's screaming bloody murder. And if you remember the slide a few slides ago with all those books, well, that was my brother's living room today. So he loved books then, and he still loves books now. But really my point is this: moving is not the time to look through family photos. It's just going to bog you down. So actually during COVID or staying at home is a good time, or long after a move, but please do not look through family photos during a move. Now, in my line of work, I've come across a lot of interesting photos in clients' homes. And I've asked those clients, would you mind if I shared those with others? And they've been kind enough to say, yes, please go ahead. So let me share a couple other family photos that I hope you'll find interesting. I just think this is the most adorable family picture. It looks like it could have been on the cover of Life magazine, doesn't it? It wasn't. It just happened to be in that bedroom hallway. And I love this, got a kick out of this. I also myself, I like military pictures. And I came across this picture in a client's home. I just thought this was so cool as well. The interesting thing about this picture is, where is my client? Yes, you're right. That's my client there on the airplane. Her name was Elizabeth. That was her fiance at the time, then husband. He had since passed away. But I just thought that was so stunning to see my client painted on an airplane. And finally, just one last picture to share with you. Here are two sisters. My client is there on the left. That's the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. But when I saw that picture, I took a double take. And why did I take a double take? Because something's missing. What's missing? The bridge. It's not there yet. They hadn't finished it yet. So I believe they finished the Golden Gate in 37. So obviously this was in early 37 or 36. But I thought that was interesting. And as I mentioned, you will come across a few, not a lot, but a few interesting family photos. But whatever you do, please look through your family photos before or after a move. So we just have two more tips left. Tip number 4 here, and then tip number 5. And again, if you do have some questions yourself, type them into the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer them after our presentations. So tip number 4, getting a head start with clothes in the closet. Now that's not my closet. It's not my wife's closet. It's actually, believe it or not, Liberace's closet, or maybe 1/10 of his closet, we think. But if you came to this presentation to walk away with some really good downsizing tips for a head start, I have what I like to think are 2 awesome tips to help you get a good head start with clothes in the closet. The first one is this: reduce duplicates of the same item. A lot of times I'll go into a lady's closet and I'll see what I call as a rainbow of slacks. Kind of looks like this picture. Those aren't slacks, but it kind of looks like that picture. But I guarantee if you have 6 pairs of red slacks, you probably only go to 1 or 2 pair and probably don't even touch the others. Now, this is not exclusive to ladies. Gentlemen, I'll bet many of you, like me, have 8 blue button-down shirts. But rather than 8, hold on to 1 or 2. So reduce duplicates of the same item is a good way to get a head start. Another really good way to get a head start: eliminate clothes that don't fit. And a lot of us have changed sizes over time, some larger, actually more than you think smaller. But in my book, if you have clothes in your closet and they don't fit, there's no reason to hold on to them or take them to a new place. So those are what I like to think are 2 really good tips. But I have an even better one that requires no thought on your part whatsoever. We call it the reverse hanger trick. And I know Megan, our announcer, and Angie could appreciate this as well as Jay. So let me have Jennifer share with you how this works.
So let me demonstrate. As you can see here, there are several tops hanging nicely on their hangers. And what you simply do is take a few and turn them around. All right, so you just simply turn them around and put them backwards. Quite simple. Just grab a few. In the interest of time, I'm just going to do this section. All right, so there you have it. All the hangers are turned backwards. I've put a note here with today's date, and then don't give it a further thought. And then when you go to wear something, let's say I decide to wear this sweater, I take it out, take it off the hanger, wear it, clean it, and then when I return it, I just put it back in, but I put it back in the regular way. And then in a couple months, 3 or 6, you're going to start to see what you're not wearing. And you'll know you've not worn those, probably unlikely to ever wear them, and it's a great opportunity for donation and or to give them to someone else. And that's it. That's the reverse hanger trick. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And really, my favorite part of this is it requires no thought on your part whatsoever. This is something you can do this afternoon, this week, this weekend. And when it comes time to make your move to Carmel Valley Manor, you will know what clothes to bring with you and what to leave behind. So I know you've all been anxious to find out what is the best downsizing tool ever, and we're going to address that right now. And some of you may put together a moving toolbox, and in that toolbox you might have a tape measure, you might have dots, Post-it notes, you might have a tape gun, you might have notepads. And those are all valuable for moving, but no, they're not the best downsizing tool ever. What is the best downsizing tool ever? The best downsizing tool ever is a cell phone camera. Yes, that's it. Now, I know many of you may not be comfortable with cell phones, but I'll bet you know someone who is, a family member or a friend. And the reason I suggest a cell phone camera as a downsizing tool is I actually moved myself 2 years ago after I left the house that my children grew up in. I was there for 25 years myself, and I found some amazing things that can be done with the cell phone camera, and I want to share with you what those are. First of all, something, again, you can do today, this week, this weekend. Just go crazy and take tons of pictures of your home as it exists today. Take pictures of rooms, walls, items, whatever it is. It's so easy to take pictures today. You don't have to take the 36-pack to go get developed. And the reason I suggest this is I've had several clients tell me that having the pictures of their things are as good as having their things themselves. So how about that? So that's a great thing to do with the cell phone camera. Another great thing to do, particularly during this time of COVID, is you can share with estate sale people and family members things you have in your home. They don't have to come to your house. I know a lot of family members are in different states, and they remember the things in your home, but if you can email them or print and mail them pictures of your things, that can be helpful to see if actually they do have an interest in the things in your home. I also think a cell phone camera is great for documenting charitable donations. I hate making those darn lists of everything I'm giving away. So what I did, I took pictures of the pile of things I was giving away, and then I could reference that when it came to be tax season. So those are all really good ideas for a cell phone camera, but my favorite one of all is to take pictures of your favorite items that you're indecisive about and then discard them. So these are all items that came from my own home. And when I was moving, I was indecisive about these things. I wanted to hold on to my CDs, but I don't play CDs. The picture in the middle there, that again is my brother and I. This time we're in high school. This was a 12 by 16, really large picture that was in my parents' home. I didn't want to discard it then, so it sat in my garage for a number of years, and I knew I was not going to put it up in my new place. So I took a picture of it, and then I had no problem discarding it at all. And then finally on the right is a collage, and I know lots of us have collages. This was something my daughter had done from the YWCA, and I didn't want to discard it because it was sentimental, so I took a picture of it. Now I have that picture, and look, I'm even using it in this presentation. So if you're indecisive about certain things, take pictures of them, and you'll be surprised because you might feel very comfortable in discarding them. So there you have it, 5 what I think are really good moving momentum tips. I'm not going to go into all of them because you've heard me for the last few minutes talk about them, but I do want to share with you a few final thoughts. Yes, believe it or not, 2021 can be a good year for some of those things. For some things, one of those is preparing for and making a move, particularly with such a good real estate market right now. What I can also tell you is that moving's not easy. I'm not here to tell you that it is, but I am here to tell you it is completely, totally doable. I've seen it on literally hundreds of occasions. I know Angie can attest to so many residents at Carmel Valley Manor. They can tell you about it, and the residents themselves. And what I've seen from my own experience is that people often are revitalized by new surroundings. People actually look and feel much younger. And believe it or not, many people comment they wish they had done it sooner. But they were so overwhelmed with this downsizing process, they just couldn't see past that. So I've tried to share with you some tips on how to make that happen. But more important than any tip is to give you a little inspiration that, yes, this can be done, and it is doable. And actually, I'll start with kind of our first question and answer. And the question is this: is moving worth it? And believe it or not, I think Walt Disney has the best answer I could ever imagine. And if we asked Walt, is moving worth it? His answer, tomorrow can be a wonderful age. So that concludes my presentation. I hope you found it useful and informative. And now I'll turn it back over to Jay.
Thank you, Greg. That was great information. I'll be using that reverse hanger trick real soon.
Yes, please.
Now I would like to introduce Carmel Valley Manor's Director of Community Relations, Angie Machado, who will share a little background on Carmel Valley Manor. Angie?
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Greg, for that wonderful presentation. I'd like to start off by introducing you to Carmel Valley Manor. It's the only life care community on the Monterey Peninsula. We were founded 58 years ago here in this beautiful valley. Carmel Valley Manor is a nationally accredited life care community, and our campus covers 28 acres, much of which is comprised of lush gardens, which change with the seasons. We are surrounded by hundreds of acres of open spaces, so we had no problem social distancing over the past year. The panoramic views of the valley are spectacular. Most of the 210 residents have ground floor apartments with private patios overlooking gardens. We have a staff of more than 170 employees that range from gardeners and chefs to housekeepers, nurses, and personal trainers. In this photo, Chris Regan, in the center of the photo, is our Director of Health Services, and she will be speaking about healthy aging at our next webinar being held on April 22nd. The level of service here is wonderful. It's like living in a resort. We even have a car service for those who would rather not drive. Unlike all the other age-qualified communities on the Monterey Peninsula, we offer a life care contract, which is quite unique. Life care means that you have 3 levels of care available to you at no additional cost. There is independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing. If you have a health problem, it is addressed immediately, and our doctors even make house calls if necessary. Many of our residents find life care a great alternative to long-term care insurance. One of the benefits, or the favorite benefits of living at Carmel Valley Manor is the 3 meals served each day. There are kitchens in residences, but most people seldom cook. Our executive chef, Greg Hilton, is constantly changing the menu. This is one of the creations of our pastry chef, Michelle. In addition, Carmel Valley Manor is also pet-friendly. This photo was taken by one of our residents, Will Furman. He is one of the many artists that live here at the manor. If you're interested in more information or you'd like to schedule a personal tour, please contact me. I'm Angie Machado, and currently we are running a spring special. I'd be happy to provide more details if you call. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Angie. We have 2 more virtual events coming up this spring. The next one will be April 22nd on the secrets of healthy aging. And on May 20th, we have our final event of the series on how to stay fit. We hope you can join us again. We will be sending a follow-up email with a short survey. Your feedback will help us improve future presentations. Today's event has been recorded. If you or a friend would like to watch it, you can find it on our website at cvmanor.org. Thank you for joining us, and now we will head to your Q&A questions.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, now I'm going to pull up some of the Q&As that we got through the event. If you still have a question you'd like to ask, you can click the Q&A button at the very bottom. You can enter it anonymously or from your name. So I'm going to pull these up right now. First question is for Greg. How much time on average does it take to downsize start to finish?
That is an excellent question. Believe it or not, I'm going to say 4 to 6 weeks. No, not 4 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is that from our experience, when we first meet a client, they usually make a move in that amount of time. And you might say, how can I leave a home after 40 years in 4 to 6 weeks? But what I'd rather suggest is that taking more time actually stretches out the anxiety. So if not 4 to 6 weeks, a couple months, but really I don't think a move should take longer than that, because I think that just stretches out the anxiety.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. What about magazines that have sentimental value?
Take pictures. Take pictures of the magazines. Now, magazines don't take up a lot of space unless you have whole collections, and we certainly have come across that. Magazines do not have very little value, if any, out there in the market. So I would suggest you take pictures of the cover or a couple articles, and then you can store them in your phone. So that would be my number one suggestion for magazines.
Perfect. It looks like we have a few duplicate questions, so I think this may be our last one. Again, if you're still in the webinar and you have a question, feel free to insert it into the Q&A. But this question says, how long ahead of time should one hire Gentle Transitions or a similar company before the actual moving date?
Yeah, so we're often glad to see anyone at any time, even when they're just in the process of contemplating a move, because we know that we can show them how it can actually happen. But actually, I think once someone has selected a new place to live, at Carmel Valley Manor, for instance, that's a really great time to have us come out to see you, because then we can go and see the actual new place. And actually, I would suggest that for downsizing on your own as well, because sometimes if people downsize to get ahead of things, they discover that, oh, the kitchen at the new place is much larger than I thought it would be, or the closets are larger or smaller. So I think the whole thing becomes much, much more real when someone has selected a new home to live.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that. It looks like we have another question for you. How do you help hoarders?
Hoarders. So I certainly have worked with a lot of hoarders. What we do understand with hoarders is that they value items in their homes every bit as much as anyone else. And much like I commented earlier, we at Gentle Transitions can't decide on what to move and what not. We only make suggestions. Actually, I like to think we've done our job well if our clients make the decisions on their own. But the other part of our process with hoarders or people with a lot of things, and certainly many of us are attached to our things, is to start with, it's kind of like an iceberg. Start with the easy things first, where people will give up some things, and then work to the harder things later.
Okay, and this question is asking, does Gentle Transitions take care of all of the packaging and moving for your clients? And do you have any examples of pricing that you would discuss, or is it a case-to-case basis?
Yeah, so we typically do packing for our clients. Let me talk about I call it the money question. So we charge on an hourly basis for what we do. It's $75 an hour. Typically, a move to a one-bedroom at Carmel Valley Manor might be $3,000 or $4,000 for what we do. Typically, a move to a two-bedroom or so might be $5,000, just to give you some sense. And that may seem like a lot of money, but that's actually 60, 70 hours of our time spent with you. What I can also tell you is that if you are interested in the service, we're glad to conduct a no-obligation estimate. What I can also say to you is that so many of our clients have told us there could not have been a better use for their money than to have our service.
Awesome. And this question is for either Jay or Angie. Does CV Manor have a memory care facility?
We do not have a memory care facility. The memory care residents that we have here are integrated into our skilled nursing.
Perfect. It looks like that is the extent of the questions that are not duplicates. So again, I want to thank all of the attendees for joining today's downsizing webinar. I want to big thank you to Greg, Jay, and Angie for all presenting today. We will be sending an email with a link to this video recording along with a survey. And we have 2 more virtual events coming up in the next 2 months that we'll be announcing. We're very excited about. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.